Hi friends, and thanks for being here. I'm Anna Helman, and today we are talking about your paper stash. If I were to ask you how many pattern papers you have in your collection, what would your response be to me? Would you chuckle and say, oh, probably a few more than I need? Or would you laugh hysterically and say, I might have a closet full? Most paper crafters admit we have more paper in our collections than we need. So today we are talking about using up some of those papers. Now, we're not just talking about ideas for using them. We are talking about ideas for using them so that you can see both sides of that beautiful paper. Let's admit it, sometimes it's hard to cut into them. They're so pretty. And sometimes it's hard to decide, well, which side do I want to use? I love both of them. The ideas for today's projects are really unique. You can see both sides of your designer paper on all of them. We are doing all kinds of fun things, fun folds, card folding techniques, paper folding, really unique design ideas, punch tricks you've probably never seen before. This is packed full and I'm excited to get started. So let's do it. I want to start out with several ways to use your designer papers as the card base itself. And this one right here is the very simplest example. Now, a lot of times we use cardstock instead of the printed papers. It's a little bit sturdier, but there's no reason not to use these printed papers for the base. This is one of the simplest cards I think I have ever made, and I think it is absolutely adorable. This paper came from a pack called Sunny Days, and I'll talk more about some of these papers here in a few minutes. But I stamped and die cut the greeting, put a little strip of ribbon here, open it up. Here you get to see the back side of that paper, which is these adorable butterflies. To highlight the paper, I cut my inside piece down a little bit smaller than I normally do, stamp the greetings, and we have a super simple card idea. So here is one. Let's take a look at one that is a little bit different. So for this next one, I have left the back of the card base as cardstock, but I am going to use designer paper for the front flap. So when we do this, we will see one side right here. When we flip it over, we get to see the back side. I love this set. It's from a pack called Trusty Toolbox, and all of these papers right now are actually available free during Celebration. We have tons of products available free with any $50 order. Right now, you'll be seeing tons of them in this video, and I can highlight this a little bit more later. So for this card base right here, what I have a piece of cardstock that measures 5.5 by 4 3/4. It is 5.5 tall by 4 3/4 wide, with the 4 3/4 inch side at the top. You want to score at 4 1/4, or you can score it at the 1/2 inch mark, one or the other, not both. You're going to fold there. This creates the size for our card base. Now this piece right here, I cut 4 by 5 1/4. The reason I did this, I wanted that red mat to show, the red outline to show all the way around. If you don't want that, if you want your front piece to be the full size of the card, cut it 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I've cut mine down so we can see the red as a border around the edge. I've put some tear and tape adhesive back here. You can use the adhesive of your choice to get this lined up properly. I am going to hold this side up with my finger and not let the adhesive touch the card base until I have it lined up where I want it and I'm ready to press it down. So I have decorated this. All of this, these tools came out of that paper pack. I cut them out by hand. I use these different strips, but this large piece with the screws, I wanted to use that as the base. I love that it has the hammers on the back. And then I wanted to mention this. So the greetings I'm using on a lot of these, they're actually a free option right now. It's a stamp set called Heartfelt Hellos. But I wanted to talk for a second about greetings on the insides of cards, because I hear from a lot of you, you have a hard time knowing what to stamp on the insides. I pulled this greeting from a stamp set called Season of Chic. It has some really nice greetings in it, and I wanted to share some, especially for Mother's and Father's Day. I think it's hard to find greetings to put on the inside, and I love this one. You're amazing beyond measure. Now, do you ever do anything with your cards that is total happy accident. Well, this was it. I stamped this and then I went back to my paper pack to find another tool to cut out. And I saw this tape measure. I was getting ready to cut it out and I thought, oh my gosh, the greeting I just stamped says you are amazing beyond measure. Is that not perfect for this card? So wanted to share that with you. As we go through here, I do have some bonus cards I'm going to share with you because I have lots of other cards made with these same paper packs as well. And since they're available free right now, I just want to show these in case you might be interested. So here's another card I made with this tool paper pack. Birthday card for my husband. You know that joke about if women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy? I had to look it up. It's apparently from the Red Green Show, but we say that in our family fairly often. So anyway, I made him this card, which I thought turned out really cute. Here's another one. I did a tutorial recently on these pull tab cards, and I will link to that in the video description if you would like to see it. That Sunny Days paper pack I used first. This paper is actually from that one as well, another pull tab card. Now let's get back to our ideas for using our designer papers and being able to see both sides of them. This next one is a Z-fold card that is going to open vertically. So when it opens, it's going to open this way and we'll have the 3 different panels. This will be attached at the bottom. So the measurements for this card are, you need one piece that measures 4 1/4 by 11 1/2. You are going to score it at 5 1/2 and 11. And then you also need a piece that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So what I've done, I have folded this piece. I put some adhesive down here at the bottom. We are going to line this piece up, and I like to lay my piece inside of here and then sort of lay this down a little bit on top to make sure things line up the way I want them to. If you've ever put a card together crooked, which you probably have, I've done it lots of times, you try to find ways to get them lined up when you're putting different card pieces together. So this greeting came from that Heartfelt Hello set I said I'm using on all kinds of, lots of these cards today. And I decorated the front. This is a greeting on the inside. May all the love that you gave to me come back to you on your special day. Love this for Mother's and Father's Day in particular. Here is the set it came from. And let's move on to our next idea. Now we're going to get into some card folding, and this next technique is called a drapery fold card. So I'll show you my example and then I'll quickly show you how to create this because it is really very simple. You want to start with a piece of designer paper that measures 6 inches by 12 inches. And what we're going to do is score. You can get out your scoring board, or if you have the Stampin' Up! Trimmer, you can use the trimmer. We're going to score at 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, and 10. After you have your scoring done, you want to line this up and we're going to make a cut. So I am going to line it up approximately, you can make marks here if you want to, 1 inch from this edge, and then we're angling down to this edge to about the 1 inch mark down here. So like I said, if you want to be precise, you can measure this. If not, you can estimate like I am doing. We're going to use that other blade. I love that our trimmer has the 2 blades. Use the other blade to cut, and let's go ahead and remove this from the trimmer. Now we have these 2 pieces. So this is enough to actually make 2 of these. And you just start folding on these score lines. So we'll get this folded up. I'll show you one example, and then I want to show you a couple of different ways to use these. So how you start folding does matter. If you start folding one direction, looks like this. Now let's say I actually wanted the pink to be the focal point with that gold in the background as the bottom of the ruffle, then I just need to reverse my folds and do this, and we will end up with the opposite effect. Okay, and it actually goes the other direction here. Now this one will be just slightly different, so you'll end up with unique examples from the two different cuts. I don't think I mentioned this paper pack is a pack called Most Adored. Let me show you. Here's one more card sample from it. I love the one side has the gold prints, the other side has red and pink, which was really nice. And that bird paper I showed you on our Mother's Day card, thought I'd quickly show you two other examples of card projects with that. Now we are going to move on to a really unique design technique. This is a technique I've seen several places from different people. Some of my team members have shared it with me, but I really love how it comes together. And it's this crisscross technique that you can see here and here. So this is one, the paper pack is called Flight and Airy. This is one of the celebration free offers right now. And I want to show you how to create this piece right here. So you need a piece of cardstock that measures 2 by 5.5. You are going to score it at 1/2 inch, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5 inches. Now I am going to put this so that that small strip is at the top. What I need here, okay, do you have any paper scraps in your collection? You love to use up those paper scraps. Here's a great idea for using up some of those narrow strips in your collection. I am going to go ahead and put adhesive on a whole piece of this, but it may work better for you just to do small pieces at a time until you get comfortable with this. So what I'm going to do is line this piece up with the left side just on top of the score line. You want to make sure it's hanging off the edge. We will trim the extra off. And then the right piece, it lines up with the next score line down. Now I need to use my scissors, trim this off, and we will do the next one. So we're going to repeat that same technique all the way down. And this may not line up exactly with this edge. We may need to do a little bit of trimming after we get done, but that's okay. So line up that next one, trim it off, and you repeat this going down until you have gotten to the bottom. Now you can do this with 2 strips of the same print if you like. It's really fun to do it with 2 different prints, but you can just play around with it. You could use cardstock for this. Play around with it and you'll end up with a lot of different effects. So for this bottom one, you line it up on top of that last score line and you line up the bottom piece with the bottom right corner. Okay, now we are going to add our second strip. So I'll put adhesive on this next piece, and it's a little bit easier for me if I flip this over. I'll show you an example here if you want to do it this way, but I think being right-handed, it helps me if I flip it over. So we're going to do the same thing basically just from the top right edge down. So we'll line up the paper so that the bottom of it lines up with this score line, and then the left side is basically just going to line up with this paper over here. And I'm specifically going to line it up with the, you can pick one. You can do the top edge or bottom edge, whichever one you prefer. Typically, they line up the same on both sides. So we'll do one, trim it off, and you just repeat this until you get that full strip. Now on my cards, once I got done, I trimmed this piece down. It starts as 4¼ inches long. 5¼ I'm sorry, 5½, I believe. And I trimmed it down a little bit because the one end looks slightly different. So you can trim it down and make it even on both ends and then use it on your card that way. So you can see how this is starting to come together. We will go ahead and move on since you should be getting the idea by now, but I'll show you those two card examples real quick again. But I did this with that same piece of paper and I used the one side on one and the other on the other. Now for my example I just used, I think these two prints were actually from different pieces of paper, but this one just gives you an idea. You can use the one side for one of the strips and the other side for the other strip. Okay, we are going to get into some fun punch tricks. We have a really simple punch trick, and then we have one that is a little bit stepped up. So let's take a look at them now. For this first one, we are going to use a punch. This is a punch you have seen several times on these cards already. It's called Heartfelt Hexagon, and it coordinates with a lot of these greetings and that Heartfelt Hellos stamp set. So I am going to line it up. I have the edge off just slightly. I'm going to go ahead and punch through. We will attach this to the card, and I am going to flip this side over. So this is a really fun technique where as long as your punch is symmetrical, now if it's a bird or a monkey or something like that, this may not work. It does need to be something that is symmetrical. But I'll put this on, we'll get the extra piece attached, and then I'm going to show you another fun trick of something you can do. We're going to finish it off with a greeting and another handy trick for your punches. And I just put my adhesive on the wrong side, but I think, do you ever do that? I think I can rescue it. Usually when we mess up, there's a way to save it. I was going to put another greeting over top here, so I think I'm okay on this. But I want to pull in, here is the greeting. I have stamped this hello. You're seeing this on several of the cards from that Heartfelt Hello stamp set. I already punched this. I stamped it and I punched it out, and I specifically on purpose punched it closer to the top of the punch because what I want to do is make this punch smaller so that I have two layers. I have my greeting on top and I have this one on the bottom that looks like a mat. So how you can do this, if you're ever trying to send a small piece through your punch, what you can do is attach it to a Post-it note. Works perfectly. You can line it up where you want it, punch, and this gives you a way to create matted pieces with one single punch, that you're not changing the size of the punch, but you can change the size of the pieces that you are punching out from it. So we'll attach this. We have to pop it up. I love dimensionals. And here you can see just a really very simple, very quick card with a couple of fun punch tricks, and you get to see both sides of what was on that paper. Let me give you another example. We won't actually finish this one, but I grabbed a circle punch and I am going to punch several times out of this paper. We'll punch once here, we'll punch once here, and we will punch once down here. And this is something that if you have very many punches in your collection, it would just be really fun to go through all of them and try this with some different ones. But here you can put these pieces back in the holes where they came out of. If you want to, you can pop those up with dimensionals so they still fill that hole, but it adds a little bit of something extra, and then you can finish your card as you want to. But super quick, super simple, a fun technique. You use the paper, you get to see both sides. let's move on to the next one. I didn't mention that paper that we just used. That was called Softly Stippled. Here is a fun little post-it holder I made with that same paper pack, but just wanted to give you some more examples of these papers. Okay, we are to almost the last card example. This is the last one I will actually demonstrate. This one, I feel like I invented this while I was creating these projects. I've never done this before. I've never seen it before anywhere. Maybe you have seen it. I don't know if it's out there, but it felt like I was inventing something new. So I wanted to do some paper folding. And this punch is from a 2-punch set called Inked and Tiled, the Inked and Tiled punch pack. And I was looking for punches that specifically would allow me to punch part way and then do some folding. So what I'm doing right now is very carefully pressing so that just the corners are punching through, but it does not punch through all the way. Now, if you decide to try this, I encourage you to play around with it a few times. It takes a few times of doing this to get comfortable with punching, but not punching all the way through. Now, I'm going to line this up again so that where I just ended, that piece is right at the edge of my punch. That helps me keep lined up, and you'll see in a moment the effect I created on a card doing this. I actually did it 3 times on the card project. We'll just do it 2 times here. Now, if you have a hard time getting that paper out because certain pieces are popped up, just press down and you can shake it a little bit and it should release. So I've punched through part way. I have not punched through all the way. Here's what I am going to do with those areas. I am going to fold them in. And if you look carefully, you are going to see that this looks a little bit different than my first example because I must have punched a little bit further, a little bit harder than I did on my example. And I'm going to have to play around with this more. I think I am going to have an upcoming video just for this technique because it seems unique to me. It seems fun and new, and we love to find new ways to use our products, right? So I took all of those loose pieces. I folded the corners in, and let's look at a couple of examples of how I use this on projects. This is the first one I created. I used another one of those free stamp sets right now, Cradled in Love, to decorate this. So I punched 3 times. I folded those corners in. You know what? I think I'm using a different punch. I think I'm using the other punch in that Inked and Tiled punch set. I think that's why it looks different. So here's the example of, if you get the set, what the other ones might look like. We'll do a little reach around. Okay, here's the punch I believe I was using when I did this one. Sorry, it comes in the same pack. So I folded those corners in, and then I thought, okay, well, how do I want to decorate this? What do I want to do with this? And I thought it would be super cute to put little circles on the center, and I thought this little elephant was perfect. So that is the first card I created with this unique punch trick. And here is the second one. I did the same thing. I spaced them out a little bit further apart so that I could punch them out. I used a 1 3/4 inch circle punch to punch these out. And then I flipped them over both directions so we can see both sides of the paper. And I did emboss this. I'm not sure if you can see the beautiful embossing folder I used on this card. It is another free option right now. Softly Sophisticated. Use this hello stamp. I love the glimmering gems on these. If you're curious what products I used on any of these cards, use the link in the video description below to go to my website. I will have a picture of each card with a list of which products I used on each one. I also have all the links to the products I've used in the video description below, so you can take a look there. Let's see. This was packed full. We had lots of card examples. I have 2 more, and then we're going to flip flip the camera around and chat for a little bit, like is becoming a new tradition in my videos. Here are two more. These I like to call panel cards. I have made videos before on panel card ideas, and I will link in the video description below to one of these. I'm going to link to several videos. If you like my punch trick I just showed, well, I've showed you a couple in this video. I have some other punch tricks, one of my most popular videos. I'll link to that. I will link to my lines on my trimmer because I get a lot of questions about the lines on my trimmer, how I have it marked, but I'll link to some panel card ideas. This panel card is one where I took a piece that measured 4 by 5 1/4, cut it in half this way at 2 inches, cut it in half this way at 2 5/8, and then I flipped 2 of the pieces over and I left 2 of the pieces the way they were, so you get to see both sides. Here's another example of a panel card idea. These are both from the Sunny Days paper pack, that first one I showed you. This one I did not flip over every other piece, but it is something you could do. There are so many different ways you can cut your designer papers into little panels and then arrange them different ways on your cards. So cute, so easy, very quick ways to make nice cards. So I thought I would show you. These are some ideas, some more ideas for being able to see both sides of your paper on your cards. Okay, friends, I'm going to flip the camera around. So thanks for watching along with today's card project. We're going to talk a little bit about life. This is what we do now. And I wanted to share some about the diet that I have been doing for a little over a year now. I've mentioned several times I've been on a special diet. I had not been feeling well, trying to correct some health problems I've had. Nothing serious that's ever been diagnosed, but I just have not felt well, had lots of minor annoying things going on, and I finally got tired of it. So a little over a year ago, I was on a blog that I like to follow that talks about like traditional baking techniques, like how to bake sourdough bread and how to grind your own flour and some things like this. And one of the categories on her blog was the GAPS diet, GAPS diet. And I thought, oh, what's that? I've never heard of it. So I clicked on the link, I started reading about it, and I was immediately somewhat taken aback at like, well, what is this? Is this real? I'm fascinated. And one of the first things I read was that people were using it to heal autism. And I think that's why it got my attention so fast. I was just like, well, that sounds made up. Like, what? What? So I started reading about it, and very quickly I was able to find the book written by the doctor who has promoted this. She did not really invent it. She has refined it. It was used in the early 1900s for mental health, to heal mental health problems. I believe maybe schizophrenia or bipolar or something like that. This diet was used to heal those problems. So this doctor, who is kind of the leader of all of the movement at the moment, she has refined it by working with lots of patients and seeing, you know, what foods and what things work and what helps people and what things don't really help people. One of the other things that really intrigued me by this diet is that it is temporary. The whole purpose of it is to heal your digestive system. We'll talk about gut health in a second. To heal your digestive system, and once you are healed, most people can go back to eating pretty normal foods. Now, I'm not talking about normal foods in the sense of fast food hamburgers and macaroni and cheese. I'm talking about like you can go back to eating dairy, and you can go back to eating grains, and you can go back to eating the foods that may have caused problems in the first place. So this diet has healed people with all kinds of mental health problems and all kinds of physical health problems. So how is that possible? The whole idea is that it goes back to your gut health. So if you have not heard this, this is becoming a little bit more mainstream, so you may have heard about it, but all of our health apparently comes from our digestive system, and whether our digestive system is working properly or not working properly. Just to give you an example, I read that 85% of our immune system lives right inside of our digestive tract. So if our digestive tract is not working properly, our immune system is definitely impaired. So when I got the book from the library, I read it. And as I read this book, which the doctor has actually written 2 books, one is called Gut and Psychology Syndrome. That's the book that I read. She's written a second one, Gut and Physiology Syndrome. The author, I think her name is Natasha Campbell McBride or something like that. So I was reading the one tailored to more towards mental problems. But as I read this book, it totally explained my life and my health problems to me. We start with the way too many antibiotics I had as a child. We talk about the sugar cravings that happened when the antibiotics killed off the good things that were living in my digestive system that were supposed to be there. The bad bugs took over and told me, eat sugar, eat lots of sugar, eat sugar all the time. I started feeling bad. I remember I felt bad in elementary school. And like I said, I've never had serious health problems, but just not feeling good, getting sick a lot, sinus problems, allergies, some depression, some anxiety, lots of other things thrown in there as well that I won't mention at the moment. But as I read this book, it explained my life to me. And it explained to me why, when my daughter was born, she had eczema from the day she was born. I had these problems. They get passed on to our children. They get worse. So I start thinking about myself. I decide, okay, I'm in. I want to do this diet. For a lot of people, it takes like 2 years. It's very restrictive for the time that you are on it if you follow it. And I want to heal as fast as I can. So I have stuck to what I am supposed to eat and not really branched outside of that. But it's temporary. So while we are on it, it is very much aimed at taking away the things away that irritate your digestive system, nourishing it with whole foods that heal your body. One of the things we do a lot of is fermented foods like sauerkraut made the old-fashioned way with salt and cabbage and left unrefrigerated until it ferments. And once it's ready, then we can refrigerate it for a while. But sauerkraut, homemade yogurt, we drink lots of bone broth. We eat meats and vegetables and fruits and have taken away sweeteners with the exception of honey. There's all these things to it, but we are about a year in. My daughter decided to do this with me. I was amazed. I had decided I was going to do it on my own. When I told her that it could heal her skin problems, she decided she wanted to do it too. And I know for a fact it is harder for her than me because I just stay home all the time and eat my food. She has to go to school and be surrounded by people eating normal foods and people wondering, why are you eating that? That doesn't look like what I ever eat. So we're in the middle of this journey. It's called the GAPS diet. It has healed so very many people. And I've discovered some other diets along the way with this. One of the ones I'm thinking about, the specific carbohydrate diet, is one that the GAPS diet kind of evolved from to be a little bit different. And then the autoimmune protocol, I believe is what it is called, AIP, is another one. These diets have healed so very many people of so many health problems, mental, physical, digestive problems, autoimmune diseases. That's what the AIP one is aimed at healing. Now, if you have not heard before that some of these conditions can be healed, that is because our medical system is failing us. And I've become very interested in all of this, very passionate about it. I do plan to share more of the things I'm learning in the future because I'm learning so many things to feel better and be healthy and heal my body that a doctor is probably not ever going to tell me. That I'm becoming really fired up about it. I want to share these things with you because a lot of these things are little, they're inexpensive. They may take a change in our lifestyle or a change in our diet or this or that. But there's so many things we can do to fix our bodies that no one is telling us to feel better in our minds, to feel better in our bodies. And I am hoping to share more of these things with you in the future. But if any of this intrigues you, look up the GAPS diet, the SCD diet, the AIP diet. I don't know as much about those other two, but the GAPS diet is the one we are on, and seems like it is working. We are not done yet, so I can keep you updated as we go. Thanks for watching along, everybody. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.